From the London News Studios, this is Vox Evening News. The headlines tonight. The United Nations appeals for more than $2 billion to feed and care for a record 20 million people across Africa's Sahel belt, but aid workers fear donor fatigue. Former South African President Nelson Mandela leaves $4 million estate to family, staff, ruling ANC party and local schools. And anti-government protesters forge ahead with efforts to topple third Prime Minister after a disrupted election. Hello and welcome, I am Aditukumbo Akintayo. The United Nations today appealed for more than $2 billion to feed and care for a record 20 million people across Africa's Sahel belt. But aid workers said they feared donor fatigue and a weak global recovery may prevent them from reaching the target. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, warned that conflicts in Mali, Nigeria, Sudan and Central African Republic have disrupted markets and caused food shortages across the Savannah region. More than 1.6 million people have abandoned their homes, and half of these have sought refuge in countries like Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Niger and Chad, which are already under strain. However, funding may fall short because of a slow global economic recovery and a $6.5 billion appeal for Syria. Donors met just over 60% of the $1.72 billion UN appeal for Sahel last year. Former South African President Nelson Mandela left his $4.1 million estate to family members, the ruling African National Congress ANC, former staff and several local schools, according to a reading of his will today. The will was expected to set off another round of squabbling among members of his large and factious family. Deputy Chief Justice Dikang Moseneke said he was not aware of any possible wrangle over the provisional 46 million rand estate, although when the will was read to the family earlier on Monday, the mood was charged with emotion. Mandela's third wife, Graça Machel, is entitled to have the estate under South African marital law, but could waive her claims and opt for specified assets that include properties in a native Mozambique. Mamphela Ramphele, former partner of renowned anti-apartheid campaigner Steve Biko, today told a news conference she was rushed into the decision to join the Democratic Alliance and will stay with her own Agang party. A change of heart frustrates the party's drive to woo black voters from President Jacob Zuma's ANC.
We parted on a very clear basis that the commitment to realigning the South African opposition politics remains. We will continue to find ways of talking not only to the DA, because we have not only been talking to the DA, we have been talking to the UDM, we have been talking to COPE, and we'll continue to do so. I saw an opportunity for a breakthrough of identity-based politics, and leaders are there to take risky decisions. And that's what I did. And when you do, you win some and you lose some. But it doesn't make it wrong to have taken the decision as a leader.
She's been on again, off again for a long time because I think she keeps on getting advice from people and so wavers. And I get lots of advice from people, mostly unsolicited. And in the end, you've got to listen to that advice, talk to the people whose advice you really trust, and make a bold decision. That doesn't guarantee it will always work, but you can't have an on-again, off-again process. I'm quite keen to stand where it makes sense for me to stand for the DA. I've currently accepted nomination to be the Premier candidate in the Western Cape.
Still talking politics, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has defected to Nigeria's main opposition party, adding a heavyweight name to a group that poses an increasing threat to the ruling People's Democratic Party, PDP, in elections next year. Abubakar, a founding member of PDP and vice president between 1999 and 2007, joins 5 state governors and dozens of lawmakers who have recently signed up with the All Progressive Congress, APC, which has used its increasing weight to threaten to block this year's budget in Parliament. Zimbabwe's central bank has announced that it would allow more currencies, including the Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, Indian rupee and Australian dollar, to circulate to ease a liquidity crunch. Zimbabwe abandoned its own money in 2009 after hyperinflation rendered it worthless and adopted foreign currencies such as the US dollar and South Africa's rand. Soon after elections last year, Zimbabweans feared a reintroduction of the Zimbabwean dollar, a possibility alluded to by re-elected President Robert Mugabe and senior ZANU-PF officials who called the 2009 move to the US currency its strategic retreat. Some analysts say the introduction of new currencies could cause cash shortages and fluctuating exchange rates in an already difficult economy. However, the Reserve Bank said the local currency would not be introduced anytime soon, adding that when it is adopted, the local unit would circulate alongside the greenback and South African rand.
In addition to opening of accounts denominated in Botswana Pula, British Sterling, South African rand, US dollar, individuals and corporates can also open accounts denominated in the Australian dollar, Chinese yuan, Indian rupee, and the Japanese yen.
By introducing a basket of currencies, it will not necessarily be a solution to solving the liquidity crunch. As you know, that currency introduction will not be easier to use as an implementation measure. Currency can only be meaningful when the economy is in a good shape. And with the current economic situation in Zimbabwe, it's quite very difficult for the introduction of the 4 other currencies to make a difference in terms of revival of the market itself.
So it's commendable what the government has done so far, but what is needed is more money in people's hands so that they can spend on the groceries and the services that are available.
A wheelchair-bound former army captain will this week become the first Rwandan to be put on trial in France over the 1994 genocide that left 800,000 dead. The trial of 54-year-old Pascal Sibikangwa opens on Tuesday in Paris and is expected to run for between 6 and 8 weeks. Exceptionally, in France, the court proceedings will be filmed. Sibikangwa, who has been a paraplegic since a car accident in 1986, faces charges of complicity to commit genocide based on the incidents in Kigali and the northwestern Gisenyi region. Sibikangwa, who denies all the charges against him, is accused of supplying arms, instructions and encouragement to Interahamwe Hutu militia who were manning roadblocks and killing Tutsi men, women and children as they arrived. Kenyan police fired tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse Muslim youths rioting for a second day on Monday in protest against a raid on a mosque used by firebrand preachers in the port city of Mombasa. The youths hurled rocks at the police and shouted, "Release our brothers," referring to more than 100 people arrested in the rundown area of Majengo on Sunday. During the police raid on the Masjid Musa Mosque, some youths raised a black flag associated with Al-Shabaab. The Daily Nation newspaper reported that youths had distributed leaflets on jihad at the mosque. The suspects appeared in court today and were remanded in custody until Friday, when they will be asked to plead. Riot police patrolled the deserted streets after the unrest subsided. Mombasa's police chief, Robert Kita, said the raid followed a tip-off when his officers burst into the mosque. They came under gunfire. Kita said ringleaders shielded themselves behind children and infants, the first time he has seen such a tactic used.
They are radicalizing youth in this mosque. So we had information that they were going to converge, and that kind of training or radicalization, or to make the matters worse, jihadism. So they want to spread that kind of jihad in the coastal region.
Kenyan author Biavanga Wainaina shocked the world when he revealed that he was a homosexual in a memoir titled The Lost Chapter from his award-winning book, One Day I Will Write About This Place. Homosexuality is criminalized in Kenya's penal code and generally a taboo subject in African society. Biavanga explains why he decided to come out publicly, why now, and what he hopes his revelation will do for gay rights in Kenya.
The idea is not that people need to come out, it's that people need to live freely and with dignity. Everybody. And what has happened, I think, over the years is because of a mixture of fear, social shame, gays and lesbians in many parts of the continent have not had that much traction in a territory where the people who are on the offense are, let's call it, the extreme conservative reactionaries. I see my coming out as an intervention in a moment in time. An intervention that was like, if I have to live accountably here, I don't want my brothers and sisters to be dying and being beaten in Nigeria. And then I'm kind of quiet, I'm making loud noises and saying they, it's they, those people who are gay. I'm feeling for them. I just felt that that intervention was necessary. But for example, I don't sit in my library reading gay books only.
Number one, it sucks. Number two, it's unnatural. Number three, what about all the women that are around? What are they for? Yeah, as in seriously, how do you look at a fellow man and say, oh my God, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all.
One, there will be moral decay, and a society that has moral decay is a society that cannot stand the test of times. Yeah.
So the question is, so now as a non-homosexual, this is the deal, Jonathan, good luck, right? So this is the deal, right? Like, people like us, we are out, okay? So now me, of course, I shall continue doing what I'm doing. You know, the world is borderless. Me, I shall continue having gay conversations with my Nigerian friends. Come find us on WhatsApp if you want. You can come and look for me. I'm interested in participating in this space where people come to a point, which is a point of utter natural, common and moral common sense, that my morality does not have to impose on your morality, right? And that I have the right to be utterly disgusted at you, but I don't have the right to act on it, right? To countermine your rights as a human being, to have dignity. There's nobody born who does not deserve dignity.
Still to come on Vox News. Ethiopia makes great progress in reducing its number of out-of-school children. Twin toilets leave Sochi Olympic visitors flushed with embarrassment. Africa's last polar bear mourns partner's death. I'll be back after the break.